What's going on? It is 12 noon on Friday, which means it's time for this week's episode of State of Real Estate. My name is John Christma. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, to help you understand how to grow your real estate business. And what we're talking about today, actually a question that came in from Lenny Anderson, so shout out to Lenny there if you're watching, tuning in right now, about scripts, and we've talked about in various videos before, whether it's on door knocking or cold calling or whatever the case may be. I mean, we talk about what things it is that you should be saying in a lot of different videos, but I don't think we have just one video specifically on scripts, on when you should use them, why you should use them, what situations you should have scripts for, and what it is that you should be doing, and how to really build one of these out. So that's what we're covering today, and really what it is that you're saying is going to ultimately change what goes on in your business, whether it's you end up getting more leads turned into clients and more clients turned into closings. It's all the words that we're using here. I mean, we're a big part of this process. And if we sound like we don't know what we're talking about, or we're ultimately confusing our clients, or whatever the problems that could arise from us not using the right words, the right word processes, the right word tracks, these could all result in all kinds of issues. So what we're talking about today is scripts. I'm John Christma. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. You're watching State of Real Estate. You're watching State of Real Estate. State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate, where today's topic is scripts. And so first question, should I use a script? Are scripts important? And the answer is yes, absolutely. If you don't already have planned what it is that you need to say in these situations you find yourself in again and again and again, I mean, a lot of people, if you've ever tried to do any sort of cold calling or door knocking or things like that, you might have used a script because you're realizing that you're doing the same thing again and again and again. And if you're not saying the right things, you're not going to end up ultimately getting that end result it is that you desire. Now, as you become more experienced and as you become more of a professional, you're able to go off script a little bit more. You're able to improvise a little bit. But until you get to that point of being professional, I mean, a lot of agents, they start in the real estate industry with a lack of confidence. And it's understandable because there's a lot of information that's out there. There's a lot of things it is that a real estate professional does. Anything that you start brand new at, you're not going to be too confident that you know what you're talking about or you know what you're doing. But what can make you seem like you know what you're talking about and make you seem like you know what you're doing is having a script, having something dialed in. You know you need to say these things. If you say these things, you're able to get to that end result it is that you want. So let's first just talk about when it is you should use a script. And the when is anything you repeat. Anything where you're doing the same thing again and again and again, which might be if you've already used a script before. I mean, maybe it's for trying to call for sale by owners to turn them into a listing. Or maybe you're out door knocking to go introduce yourself to a neighborhood. These are absolutely when it is you should have a script. So the reason why a script is so important here, because maybe you're able to say the right things, but then what happens when you don't? When you have a script, you're able to troubleshoot. What am I doing wrong? This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm saying. What's going wrong here? What needs to be tuned a little bit? If you're just going out there guessing at what to say next, especially in these situations where you're repeating again and again and again and again these repetitive tasks, you want to have a standard thing it is that you say. So that way, again, if you need to make some tweaks, if you realize you're not getting the result it is that you want, You might just need to tweak one little thing. Maybe it's the delivery of your script. Maybe it's the tone you're using. Maybe there's a certain word that you get tripped up on, and all of a sudden your confidence just goes away when you get tripped up on that one word. There's so many things that could be going wrong, and you're able to dial in on those when you're actually using some sort of script. Now, you could Google scripts for all kinds of different things in real estate, and you can find all different types of scripts with all kinds of different sales philosophies and all kinds of different psychologies being implemented in that script. But overall, what you're saying isn't as important. So don't get hung up on, oh, well, what is the best script? What is one way or another? Now, ultimately, you will find, if you Google real estate scripts or for sale by owner scripts or door knocking scripts or whatever the case may be, you'll find some that are very different. And it's not really as important that you know what those words are, but why you're saying those words. What are the goals? What are the goals? What's the ultimate end goal of the script? And what is the reason why you're saying certain things, why you're doing certain things? And this is what allows you to go off script, because you know what that end goal and why you need to say certain things to move people towards that end goal. So that's where you get to the point where you can start to improvise a little bit. And again, with experience, this will start to come natural. You don't necessarily need to always use an exact word for word of what it is that you need to say. But until you really start to understand the why behind the things it is that you're saying, it's better to go off of something that you know works. And then when you run into issues with it, that's where you can go in and tweak things. You can make a little bit your own. You could go in and modify things, but that really comes at a risk if you don't know the reason why you're saying something. So let's run through an example. Let's say it is that you're out door knocking. You're door knocking a neighborhood because you want to introduce yourself. So let's say the script that you're using, and this is going to be maybe how you could troubleshoot something like this, because I'm not going to say that there's one script that is the script it is that you need to use. Everybody is different. Every market is different. So it's really going to depend. But when you have something down that you're going off of, you could go in there and tweak it. So let's start with something. When you start a conversation with somebody, let's say you go knock on somebody's door and say, "Hello, how are you doing today?" And what happens when you're saying, "Hello, how are you doing today?" There's a lot of people that are just closing the door on your face. Now, this one's going to be a pretty obvious one, and that's why I didn't want to get too deep in here. But you could see if you're using that same phrase at every house that you go knock on the door to, and the doors that are opening are closing right back up because you're like, "Hello, how are you doing today?" And you're just creeping them out. They don't want to make small talk with you. They're saying, "Hey, what is this person doing at my front door? What is this person doing here? Why are they here? They just want to chat with me. I was in the middle of watching this TV show. I was in the middle of cooking dinner. I was in the middle of cleaning. I was in the middle of bathing my kids," or whatever it is that you're interrupting. So now we could troubleshoot that. You start to say, well, maybe my script needs to be tweaked a little bit. All these people don't want to tell me how they're doing. And then remember what that goal is. The goal here, if your goal was to go out and survey and find out how people were doing, then it would make sense why you're asking that question. Well, how are you doing today? But do you really care how they're doing? Is that really essential and important here? Not really. So how can we now tweak this and revise this? And this is where, if you're using scripts that are already tested and work, that you know work, that you'll find some different things that are being said there. So let's just, right off the cusp here, just try to figure out what would be better to say than, "Hello, how are you doing today?" So what we need to do here, understanding the why, that's what's really important here. And this is really essential when you're building out any sort of script, is you've got to understand why you're saying certain things. Why would you say, "How are you doing today?" Well, because it's pleasant, because that's what people might do. And this is, and you might want to also think, why would you not want to say something? Why not say something? Let's say that this person is having a bad day. They're having a bad day and they're saying, "Oh, well, my kid just went and peed all over the kitchen, so I got to go in there and mop it up. My day is not going too great. Can I help you with anything?" Is that a great way to start a conversation? No, it's not. So that's maybe why we want to eliminate these things. And I would go overall just to cut out these pleasantries. There's a lot better ways to build rapport. If you want to build rapport as a professional, look like a professional. Don't just look like some random guy or some random girl that's showing up at somebody's house to say, "How are you doing today?" So, how can we rephrase this? What can we do that's better? So maybe we knock on the door. "Hey, my name is John Charismo from ABC Realty. The reason why I'm stopping by today is to introduce myself as the specialist that's been assigned to this neighborhood. Do you mind if I ask you how long it is that you've lived here?" So notice how that's just a complete different. Now, if those two people showed up at your door, the Mr. "Hello, how are you doing today?" versus the "Hey, my name's John Charismo with ABC Realty. The reason I'm stopping by today." Now notice that why there. The reason I'm stopping by today. It's very important whenever you're interrupting somebody, you let them know why you're interrupting them. Because otherwise, they're going to be left guessing. If you show up and you say, "Oh, how are you doing today?" they're thinking in their head, and they're not even going to give you a straight answer on how they're doing, because they're thinking in their head, "Who is this person? What do they want? Why are they at my door? Are they going to come murder me? Are they staking out the place to rob it later? What is it that this person is doing here?" Whereas when we introduce ourselves and give very quickly the reason I'm stopping by today, or if you're cold calling, the reason for my call today. And people will really appreciate when right up front you tell them what it is that you're doing, why you're calling them, why you're knocking on their door, why you're interrupting their day. There's no perfect time to door knock. There's no perfect time to cold call. You will 99% of the time be interrupting them when they're doing other things that they view as more important. So you want to get right to the point right away so they understand what it is that you're doing here. The reason I'm stopping by today is to introduce myself as the specialist that's been assigned to this neighborhood. And that's something I like to use whenever we're talking about door knocking, because if you're just going out to a completely cold neighborhood that's never met you before and you're just knocking on every door to see if anybody potentially has any need for real estate, this is a very cold type of introduction. And now, doing this probably won't result in a lot of business when you look at the percentages. If you knock on 100 doors, maybe you get one person that says, "Well, you know what, I was actually thinking about selling. Do you mind telling me what my property value is worth?" So maybe out of the 100 doors you knock on, you get that one there. And when you have a detailed script like this, you could go in there and say, maybe I shouldn't just introduce myself. Maybe I could try something else. And then now you could look at these numbers here. You could look at the numbers of the doors you knocked on with this script versus the doors you knocked on that script. And with script A, how many leads it is that you got versus on script B, how many leads it is that you got. But what again is really important is understanding the why you're doing this. Why are you knocking on their door? Is it just to introduce themselves? I mean, that's a great start of things, but they're probably going to forget you. So what can we do instead? Well, again, this is a cold audience. These are people that have maybe never heard of you, never saw you before, maybe have no current need at all for a real estate professional. So maybe ultimately our goal isn't to try to get a listing, because you're going to be really disappointed if you only get one, and that's even one potential out of the 100 doors it is that you knocked on here. So maybe your goal instead is to to introduce yourself, but now also create an opportunity where you could follow up with these people. And a great way to do this is through maybe some sort of email newsletter. So, hey, I'm the specialist in the neighborhood, and you might think, well, what makes me the specialist in the neighborhood? Well, I stay up to date on everything going on in the neighborhood, all the houses that are going up for sale, that have been sold, how long they're on the market. So anything you want to know about real estate in this neighborhood, I am the specialist. As a matter of fact, I actually send out a monthly newsletter or a weekly newsletter or whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you're doing, to all of the people in the neighborhood. Are you already receiving the newsletter? And you know the answer is going to be no here, but the whole point, the why you're saying this, again, that's what's really important in script building, is understand why you're doing everything that you're doing. The why that you're saying this is so you could get them to say, no, I'm not on the list. Oh, well, let's fix that. What's your email address? And how do you spell your name? And what's a good contact number for you? Great. That's fantastic. And now, when you notice when I first went through that revised script, one of the questions I asked immediately, do you mind if I ask you how long have you lived here? And I didn't ask him, are you the owner? I didn't ask him, are you the tenant? I didn't ask him anything like that. I just asked him, well, how long did you live here? And they might say something like, oh, well, we've been here for about 6 months now. Oh, really? Really? That's fantastic. How you liking the neighborhood? How do you like the area? And now is where you could get a little bit more off script, but you know that at some point you're going to have to get back on script to accomplish your goal. Well, look, I don't want to take up any more of your precious time today. I just wanted to introduce myself. And by the way, I actually send out an email newsletter to the neighborhood with all the updates going on in the real estate market, all the community events and things like that. Do you get that already? I'm not sure if I already have you on the list. And they're going to say, oh, no, I haven't seen that. Oh, well, let's fix that. What's your email? And now notice how you got back on the goal. And then maybe you leave them with a business card. And this is going to change based on whether they're a very cold prospect or they're a warm prospect. That person that just moved there 6 months ago, when they say they love the neighborhood, they're not probably planning on moving anytime soon. But somebody that says, oh, well, we've been here for about 5-6 years now. I was like, oh, well, how you liking it? Well, you know, we don't really like this. There's been some changes in the neighborhood. Oh, you know, I'm sorry to hear that. Have you ever thought about moving? Say, oh, you know, we thought about it, but we're not sure. Well, let me ask you this. If you were to move, what would be that ideal neighborhood that you'd want to live in? And now you're starting a conversation. You're starting to qualify them as more of a warm prospect than a completely cold prospect. And the goal here changes. We don't want to send this warm prospect. We don't want to say, all right, well, do you want an email newsletter? No. They're potentially thinking about selling their home, and the questions that we ask, the reason why we're asking them is to qualify them, to find out, okay, are they cold? Are they warm? Are they hot? And then based on whether they're cold, warm, or hot, will tell us what it is that we need to do here. And now we're talking about this specifically with door knocking, but this could apply in a lot of different ways. It is that you're doing these repeatable actions of maybe lead generation, whether you're cold calling or whatever the case may be. When you have a script like this, you're able to dial in. You're just not just puking words on people. You're saying things with a very specific purpose, a very specific reason, with a very specific goal in mind. So look, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but stick with us. We've got more to share with you on this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Carismo, and you're watching State of Real Estate. Have you completed your post-licensing education yet? Look, I know you're probably thinking, hey, it's not my renewal deadline, I don't need to do post-licensing yet, but look, here's why you want to do post-licensing as soon as you've got your real estate license, as soon as you're able to take post-licensing. It's not just another course about arbitrary laws that you're never going to use again. It's about real-world, usable topics that'll help you grow your real estate business, to help you take it to the next level. Look, let me ask you this one question. If this course helps you close just one deal, if you get one extra deal from post-licensing, is it worth the investment? I'd say it is. We get paid pretty well, so one deal means a lot of money. Check out postflorida.com. That's postflorida.com for the full details about post-licensing. You're watching State of Real Estate. And welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate, where today we're talking about scripts, when to use them, how to build them, how to critique them, how to tune them up, and really make it so you're a business doing machine, you're a deal closing machine, you're a lead generating machine, whatever the case may be. So we're talking about how you could use a script to initially generate leads. So maybe you're out knocking on doors in a neighborhood. And look, we're getting into October now. We're almost done with September. And what happens here in Florida, things start cooling down a little bit. It's no longer like 112 degrees with 97% humidity, where basically you walk outside and you're instantly covered in sweat. But it's a little bit cooler. It's a little bit nicer out. It feels good just walking around a neighborhood. So this is door knocking weather we're hitting into right now. And this is a really great script to use. Everything it is that we've been talking about, to, again, start to introduce yourself. And look, we could go on all day of really dialing in a specific script just for you, but where it's really going to come down to is this something you're comfortable with saying? Because what happens when you're not comfortable with saying something? If you're not comfortable saying something, it's going to come out jumbled. They're going to see the pain in your eyes when you say something if you don't like what you're saying. So you really got to craft something specifically to you. And when you're doing that, keep in mind the why. Why are you saying things? Go line by line for what it is that you're planning to say and ask yourself, well, why am I saying this? And why would I not say this? And does it make sense just to cut that from the entire thing? We talked about earlier, opening up the show, of the how are you doing today? How are you doing today? That's, if, we're going to say like a pet peeve of mine, that's it. I hate it when people ask me, how are you doing today? Or I catch myself sometimes saying, how are you doing today? And it just makes me sick because I don't really care how they're doing. I have some other purpose, some other reason why I'm trying to say something. And that really just leads it off track. Your goal as the professional is to control the conversation. But when you control the conversation, you don't want to be doing all the talking. You want your client doing all the talking, your prospect, your lead doing all the talking, and you're just there controlling the direction of the conversation. You're moving the conversation towards that goal, but you're getting them to move themselves towards the goal. That's really the sign of a great salesperson, is if they get you to sell yourself. And that's by asking questions, by getting the other person talking, by asking the right questions, by saying things with a very specific purpose, asking questions with a very specific purpose. So when it comes time to get to that goal, it's like, oh, well, you're not on the email list? Well, what's your email? Let me get you on that. And notice how that just completely changes the conversation. If we showed up at the door and said, hey, my name's John from ABC Realty. I have an email list. Do you want to give me your email? No? Well, why not? I got a really great email I send out every month. You don't want it? Oh, you get too many emails already? All right, well, thanks for your time today. Did we achieve our goal? No. Did we try to achieve the goal? Yes, but we didn't ask good questions. We did all the talking. We didn't get them talking. We didn't start a conversation. What you got to remember is a conversation is two ways. Whenever you find yourself and you feel like you've been talking for too long, guess what? You've been talking for too long. And you've got to get the other person engaging with you. You've got to get the other person being part of this conversation. Because when they start saying things, that's where their mind's working toward this goal. When you're doing all the talking, their mind's going to wander. Their mind's going to start to think about, oh, well, I think I got to take those cookies out of the oven soon. Or it's like, oh, my kid's still in the bath upstairs. I wonder if they've drowned it yet. I should probably go check on them. Or, oh, the kids are back in the pool. Or, oh, my dog's back in the backyard still. I wonder if they got out. And, oh, meanwhile, you're talking about your email newsletter, and they're thinking about all these other things that are on their mind. And that's what happens when you do too much talking. So the goal here isn't to just say the right things. It's more so to ask the right questions that facilitate a conversation that moves towards that goal. And when you can do that, it really doesn't matter what specific words it is that you're saying, as long as you're getting them to move themselves towards your goal. And again, that goal might change. If you identify them as a cold prospect, you might just want the email newsletter type of thing. But if you identify that, oh, well, this person's thinking about selling. How do we now change the script? How do we flip the script over to, oh, we've got a live one here. We've got a hot one. We've got somebody that's interested in selling. Well, maybe we start asking the questions. Well, how long have you been thinking about it? What's the ideal neighborhood it is that you've been moving to? Why haven't you moved yet? That whole why not thing. Why are you still living here? You obviously don't like it. Why are you still living in this place? And we'd probably say that in a nicer, less blunt type of way, and that's maybe where using the right words comes in a little bit to play here. But that's our goal. Our goal is, well, why are you still living here? What's holding you back? What's keeping you in this house? What's keeping you from moving to this neighborhood? And when we find this out, when we find out what obstacles it is that are holding them back, we could even get into asking things like, well, other than maybe the price of homes in that dream neighborhood, is there any other reason why you haven't moved to that dream neighborhood yet? And then they might say, oh, well, the kids are still in school right now, and, we don't want to move them around in schools. Oh, yeah, I completely understand that. Well, how about other than the money and the kids being in school, is there any other reason why you haven't moved yet? And what we're doing here is we're trying to flush out all of the objections they have. We're trying to flush out all of the reasons that are holding them back and keeping them in that house and keeping them from selling their current property. Now, these are questions that would maybe start to seem a little intrusive if we're talking about somebody who's completely cold. And then again, maybe that goal is just to establish a presence with them. Because, look, if we could knock on 100 doors and get 100 listings, that'd be fantastic. But that's not going to happen. Most of the people you talk to for the doors that actually do open, they don't have an immediate real estate need. They might have just moved in. They might not. They might love it there, but they're not business today. But maybe they're business tomorrow. So that's where, again, we have different goals and different priorities based on how motivated they actually are. And you're going to thank yourself a couple years from now when you didn't just throw away all these people that say, oh, we just moved here. You start to build up a little bit of a database, and you start to facilitate and cultivate a following among them where they look to you for real estate advice. And then guess what? When they're ready to buy or sell, you're going to be the first name that starts to pop in their mind. So look, lead generation and prospecting, that's a fantastic time to use some sort of script. That's when you absolutely should be using a script. But there's other times when you can kind of scriptize your business of things it is that you're saying. So one of the things that I've talked about before a lot of times on State of Real Estate and Ask the Instructor, and I'm a really big proponent of, is doing buyer consultations. So right now we live in a world where it almost seems like to a lot of agents that we're just the gatekeeper or the keymaster or whatever Ghostbusters thing it is that you want to throw in there. But we're just the people that get people into the house, and if they want it, okay, we help them make an offer. That's the way a lot of real estate agents think that that's what they're supposed to do. Oh, I got a call from Zillow. Somebody wants to go look at 123 Main Street. I'm going to go take them to see 123 Main Street today. I hope they buy it. Are you in control of anything? Now, you have that illusion of control because they have to go through you to get into the property. But what happens when they don't like that property? They're going to go back on Zillow, go back to searching Zillow, and then some other agent is probably going to pop up, and then they're going to call that agent because, oh, that must be the agent for this property. So they're going to call them, and they're going to forget all about you. So the way it is that we want to flip this and really take control of this process is like, oh, 123 Main Street? Yeah, absolutely. We got to take a look at that here. Let's have you stop by my office today. Does 1 p.m. work for you? And so, well, no, I don't want to go to your office. I just want to see the home. Can't you just show me the home? Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a look at the home. But first, we just need to come in the office and go over a couple of things just to make sure this was the right home even for you. And you might get pushback. You're definitely going to get pushback because they're calling asking you for this, and instead you're trying to give them this. They're calling asking for the home, say, hey, stupid realtor, just let me into this house here. That's all I care about. And trying to flip this now into, okay, you want me to come into your office? Well, what do you want me to come into your office for? So maybe we could flip that. So notice how when you're using the same phrases, you could start to realize when you start running into issues. If everyone you're talking to, when you try to get them to come into the office first, they give you pushback and say, no, I don't really want to do that. What are we saying that's not resonating with them? Well, when we're just saying, oh yeah, come to my office and we'll go check that out, they might say, well, I don't want to go to your office. I don't want you to sell me anything. So maybe we start to understand why these things are happening and why what we're saying is not working, and we could really start to rephrase this. You could say, hey, oh yeah, 123 Main Street, yeah, that's fantastic. What was it about that house that you liked? Now notice how we're starting to take control of the conversation here, and we're moving them towards our goal. It might not seem like it right off the bat, because if we just try to go say, oh, you want this, no, this, we pull that little bait and switch right off the bat with them, they're not going to like that. Say, no, you're not listening to me. I just want to see 123 Main Street. I don't want to go to your house, to your office. But when we say something like, oh, well, what was it? Why did you like that house? What about that house did you like? Oh, well, we liked it, the 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and it seems like a good neighborhood, and they're telling you all these things. Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. This sounds like it might be a good fit for you. Matter of fact, there's actually, have you looked at any other properties? Oh, well, we've looked at a couple here. Well, how about this? How about you come to my office, we'll go through and we'll set up a couple appointments to look at a couple of the properties, because I'm already thinking of a couple properties right off the top of my head that are similar to this property that you might also like. And if we go look at these all in one go, it'll save you a bunch of time so you don't have to keep going back in and out. What do you say? Do you want to look at 3 or 4 properties? Yeah, that sounds good. Great. Well, let's come into my office. I'll go over all the things we're going to discuss here, where we'll talk about, what it is that I'll do for you and how I can help you through this process. And by the way, if I didn't mention this already, this is all at no cost to you. I've got pre-negotiated agreements with all the sellers in the area. How does that sound? Oh, well, yeah, that sounds great. Well, what time should we stop by your office? Now, notice how, again, the goal is to get them to sell themselves. We've already got them to sell themselves on this whole reason why they're coming to the office, and they're asking us, oh, well, when should we come by your office? Rather than, hey, look, I just want to go see 123 Main Street. Just take me to see 123 Main Street. And if you could do this with leads you're getting online for particular properties, you'll end up with much better rates of conversion because now you're able to set the tone, you're able to maybe get them pre-qualified, you're able to find out what might even be a better property for them, and maybe that 123 Main Street isn't even the best property for them. But having that little consultation will really speed up the process. And that's, you got to understand why it is that you're doing this, not just for you, but also why should they care about doing a consultation? They don't care about making your job any easier. So that's why we had to massage in of, oh, there might be some other properties that are similar to this, that have these things it is that you want. There's actually probably one I think you guys might like even better. We might even have some that are off the market right now that might be of interest to you. Are you interested in any of this? And now we're trying to let them know, or really get them to bring out all the reasons why they might want to come to our office rather than just go check out 123 Main Street. And when you start to put down this on paper of the script of the things it is that you say and think about, well, why are you saying it? Why not? And what is the goal of you saying this here? And you're going to have little mini goals along the way. That first goal right off the bat when you get a call from whatever lead generation service that says, hey, I want to go look at 123 Main Street. Oh, well, the goal here is to flip them, to get their attention off of 123 Main Street, because we know they'll probably go look at that. Maybe they'll like it. There's a slim chance that they'll like it, and maybe that turns into a deal right there. And I think that's what a lot of agents get hypnotized by, is like, oh, I got a hot lead. They want to see 123 Main Street. And then every now and again, maybe 1-2% of the time, that person does want to buy 123 Main Street, and it's a quick, easy deal. Quick, easy, dirty deal, I would call it, because we're just doing it super quick and super dirty, versus where we have to do a little bit more work and consult them and massage this all into their thinking. That takes a lot more work, and who wants to do all that extra work? Well, you'll want to do that extra work when you understand the goal of ultimately speeding up this process. By doing that little extra consultation, that little extra work in the first place, you speed up the process and you make it more likely where they're going to actually use you rather than just going off and just picking whatever agent is Zillow showing for that particular property, or Realtor.com is showing for that particular property, or whatever the case may be. So write down the things it is that you're saying. Really, a great way to start with this is just writing down the things that you're saying already, and start to go through and ask, okay, well, why am I saying this? What's the goal of me saying this? And then anything that doesn't ultimately move you towards your greater goal, your greater purpose, that ultimate finish line, you could scratch that all right from what it is that you're saying. If you've been asking people, how are you doing today? That just wastes people's times. It puts other people in control. It lets circumstances control things rather than you being in control of things. So that's something right off the bat I would try to eliminate, and it's difficult. As much as I hate saying that, I catch myself sometimes when I'm walking by people in the hallway, oh, how are you doing today? And we do it just because that's ingrained to us, that's the polite, nice thing to do to show interest in other people. And it maybe back in the day that actually was something that would get people starting a conversation with each other. But in 2019, it really has lost its value. It's lost its significance to it. So I would say just scratch that right off the bat. But then what else are you saying that you could maybe say differently that moves you towards a goal, or that you could ask as a question rather than just telling them something? And understanding, again, the whys you're saying things and why you wouldn't say things. So that way you start to understand, again, the words that you're saying. And that's how you could get up here and just start to rattle off things, and you know they're going to work because you know the reason why you're saying it. And you know the things it is that you've got to say when things start to go awry and things start to go haywire. You could say, ooh, this is what's happening. Well, this is what I've got to do to fix this. This is what I've got to do to bring this back on track, to get this back on script, to get this back towards this process that we're moving towards. So look, that's really what it is, that the three questions you want to ask when you're building out a script of what it is that you're saying. And really, again, just do it with what you're currently doing. Why are you saying it? Why wouldn't you say it? And what's ultimately that goal? And when you start to critique this, and just critiquing what it is that you're already saying is really going to just start moving your business in the right direction, because you're starting to not just doing things again and again and again, but you're starting to become more efficient. You're starting to become more effective. You're starting to be more of a sharp knife. I mean, if you take a dull knife, you can eventually cut through stuff with that dull knife, but it's going to take a lot more work to saw through something with a dull knife. Whereas if you're sharpening that knife, every time you go through to refine what it is that you're saying, you're sharpening that knife. So now you can just slice right through things with no effort whatsoever. So work through that. Figure out, okay, why am I saying things? Why would I not want to say these things? What can I ask as a question instead? And what's ultimately that goal that I'm trying to achieve from this year? And you do that, and everything's going to start to click a little bit more. Things will start to make a little bit more sense. So look, that's about all the time we've got for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you've liked today's show, make sure you hit a thumbs up. Hit the little bell icon so you get notifications whenever it is that we go live. So that way you don't miss out on any of this information we drop every single day here at Tampa School of Real Estate. Fridays, 12 noon, State of Real Estate. So make sure you've got that on your calendar for every Friday for the rest of your life. State of Real Estate, to come here to mastermind, to learn some things that you could implement in your business, and try to do this today. Do this weekend. Implement this right away, because this information that you just learned, if you don't start to implement it, you're not going to see any results from that. And that's information without implementation means nothing. You've got to implement this information to actually start to get it to change your business. This information alone won't change your business. It's the implementation of it. And look, if you're needing to get your real estate license, complete post licensing, get your broker license maybe, or maybe you want some sales training where we really dive into a deeper version of building out scripts, call us up at 813-333-2676, 813-333-2676. We've got advisors standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way it is that we can. So look, that's all the time we've got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Hey, so if you're thinking about starting a real estate career, it could feel a little overwhelming sometimes. Look, that's completely understandable. That's why we're here to help. If you haven't already, check out our Success Center, tampaschool.com/success. Or if you don't even know where to begin, give us a call. We'd love to help you out. We've got advisors standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way it is that we can. Our phone number is 813-928-0106. Again, that's 813-928-0106. Give us a call. We're the Tampa School of Real Estate. You're watching State of Real Estate. Hey, so if you're Success Center, tampaschool.com/success. Or if you don't even know where to begin, give us a call. We'd love to help you out. We've got advisors standing by to answer any questions you have.